learning more about the game. Coming out of high school, you only know a little bit. Coming here, it's a whole other thing. And it's very interesting. It's been a lot of fun.
Do you feel like it was a pretty good decision on your part to go ahead and enroll early and
yes.
be a part of spring practice and get accustomed to it?
Yes, it's been very helpful because right now I could be getting ready for the prom and I'm just kind of sitting around just lifting, but here I'm in spring ball and learning a lot. It's a lot of fun.
How's it been picking up on the offense?
It's been pretty good. It's a very simple offense. Terminology is really easy, and it was easy to pick up. It took a couple days to understand it, but then after that, just kind of went from there.
Has it sunk in that you conceivably could be a sprained ankle away from on the field?
Possibly, because right now Taj is the guy, and behind him is me and Tony. So me and Tony gotta be ready to go in when we need to.
Is that a little daunting for you at all, or is it just not so far off that you really doesn't seem real?
Well, I know me and Tony, we're ready to go in when we need to and do what we have to, but really hope sprain ankle or something like that doesn't happen. But I think me and Tony, I think we both are capable of stepping in and just take one play at a time and understand what we're doing.
What is it that you bring to the table? What will make you a good quarterback?
One thing that I've always had was being able to stay calm under pressure and just being relaxed. At the same time, have some energy for the team to get going.
Yeah, it's kind of funny because Coach Morris said you tend to have peaks and valleys. If something isn't going well, you might slide a little bit. Once you be going, even feel.
Well, if something doesn't go right, I kind of get mad a little bit, but I don't show it that much. I'll have a little oh darn, why did I do that? But
doesn't seem to affect how you perform.
Coach Swinney said last night you were definitely number 2 on the depth chart, kind of a little bit ahead. How does that make you feel when you hear comments like that, 12 practices in?
It makes me feel really good, but I know that it's just spring ball and we got a long time until camp starts and then our first game. So just got to take that as a little something to help me keep going and just something I can build off of and hopefully improve a little more than what I'm doing right now.
Did you know that? Did they tell you that, or did you just hear that now?
I just heard that right now. So.
Did your dad send you off with any advice since he's kind of been through this whole process?
I talk to him a couple times a week, and it's just the same thing every time. If I'm saying throwing weird, he just tells me the same old stuff bend your knees and all this. So he gives me really good advice of, well, he's like another coach pretty much that's not here, which is good. So because over spring break, it was good to go back and talk to him in Ohio when I wasn't here with Coach Morris or Coach Swinney.
Do you feel like that gives you a built-in advantage, kind of growing up the son of an NFL quarterback, and how that influence you growing up?
It was really helpful because I know that my dad had a lot more knowledge than what I had, so he was just kind of giving me little bits and pieces of it here and there. And then my brother, he also helped me because he ran the same. He was a quarterback before me at my high school, so he knew that offense. And for the 3 years that I started there, he would always give me tips and pointers about the offense and how I should do this and that. That was real helpful.
Dabo said you own all the passing records at Dublin Kaufman. Is that true?
The career records. My brother has most of the seasonal records, but I broke Brady Quinn, who's at the Denver Broncos, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I broke his career touchdown, passing yardage, and passing attempts. My brother broke the season records, I think.
Did you know Brady at all, or was he that far ahead of you?
He comes back a couple times. I think he came back for about 4 of my games in the 3 years I was there. So I met him a couple times, and he's been so busy with the NFL. So
Yeah.
it's good to see him. And we had a couple other guys come back that went to the NFL. Nadukwe, who was with Cincinnati Bengals, he came back. And it was really good to see those guys come back to their high school.
As you assess your spring, what do you think you've done well, and what do you think heading into the summer are the 1 or 2 things you really need to focus on?
This spring, I'm just grasping the offense and understanding what I need to do on every play. In the summer, I'm just going to get back into the flow of everything and keep improving on something every day. Probably throw with receivers in the summer to keep everything going, and getting used to the tempo of the game, which I'm starting to get a grasp of, which is really good.
The understanding is that the quarterback's going to need to be able to run efficiently and effectively in this offense. Tyler seems eager to run. Are you a little more reluctant to be a runner?
I'll run when I need to. I've always had the ability to run, and when I do run, I just try to get as much as I can. Because what I've always been taught is you don't need to get a 50-yard gain. You just need to get enough yardage to get what you need to get. And if it means I only get 5 or 6 yards, I only get 5 or 6 yards. And then we just move on to the next play and go from there.
If the terminology and the offense has been kind of easy, what's been not so easy for you so far?
At the beginning of spring ball, when we first put on the pads, it was probably the fastest thing I've ever seen. But after that, I started to adapt to how the speed of the game has gotten, and it's now just putting everything together, which is starting to come along real good. And yesterday, I had a pretty good day, so we'll just keep building off that.
So it's applying it at that tempo or
Yes.
something?
Knowing that maybe at best you'll be the backup quarterback this year, and keep that in mind, are you also kind of aware that there seems to be a little bit of a buzz that, hey, this guy may end up being pretty good here? That seems to be what coaches are saying without saying, so to speak. I'm just curious if you're aware of that at all.
That's Taj being the whole time? Is that what you mean?
Pardon?
Like, what do you mean by that?
I just mean that there seems to be a sentiment amongst players on the team and also the coaches that you're going to be a pretty good quarterback, and that it'll take some time to develop. I was just curious if you're aware of that. I mean, you seem to, before and answer another question, maybe not so much. I'm just curious.
Well, I think if I keep getting these coaches doing what they're doing, then anybody who's being coached by these guys will have a pretty good shot, and hopefully that all have everything that they know, and they can develop me and whoever else comes in to be a pretty good quarterback. So.
What attracted you to Clemson? I think you originally were committed to Wyoming, correct?
Yes, I was originally committed to Wyoming. That was before I had my offer to Clemson. Wyoming was a very good fit. They had a good offense, but when Clemson offered me, just kind of opened up the doors, and they just showed me around. Parents and everyone in my family was really amazed by Clemson. So was I. It just felt like the right fit because I was closer to relatives here, born in Greenville, so it seemed like I was coming home again.
You still have relatives in Greenville or around the area?
Yeah, I have relatives in Greenville, Charlotte. My sister's in North Carolina, Wilmington, so it's good to be in close to relatives.
But you developed a really
Being able
good.
to compete for the backup job.
Yes, there was a big attraction there because knowing that Kyle Parker was graduating, I was sitting there going, it's Taj, then Tony. It seemed like a good fit, so I was really excited about that.
Going back to January, you built up a really good relationship with Billy Napier. When he left, did that affect you at all, and how has building a relationship with Coach Morris been?
When Coach Napier left, I was kind of shocked. Called him up, and we talked for about a couple minutes about it, and then I started getting to know Coach Morris, and we've started to have a bond just like me and Coach Napier had, and it's been really good. It seems like me and Coach Morris have known each other for a long time.
He says he's a technique freak. Could you just talk about, especially with footwork, I guess.
Mhm.
Could you talk about where you are and how much work you need to do this summer?
Footwork is something that pretty much everyone needs to work on, because in high school you can get by with not that so good at footwork, but here in college it's all about timing, and this play is a 1-2-3 step throw. You can't do a 1-2-3 gather throw. You have to have good footwork, or it's just going to be all over the place.
Do you do anything unusual to work on that, or how many hours or minutes a day are you putting into that?
A couple, and when we go out to practice, we have about a 5 to 10 minute segment where that's all we work on is footwork with Coach Morris, which is one of the biggest things that we do. We go through the ladders, through the bags, go over our plays, throw them into the net, just for about 10 to 15 minutes. It's really helpful.
How much did you put into getting bigger and stronger, I guess, in December, January, February?
I was about 200 pounds at the end of my high school season. When I came here to Clemson, about 2 months later, I was 213. I've just been trying to keep gaining weight off that. Hopefully in the summer when I have this little break coming up, I'll gain a little bit more.
Are you still growing taller at this point, do you know?
I hope I grow taller. But right now I'm 6'4", so seems like a good height right now.
What's your weight now, and do you have a target?
Right now I'm 208. I would like to be 215 or higher, hopefully 220. But I guess they're eating on that.
Are you excited for the spring game and getting out in front of the fans?
Yeah, it's very exciting. That's one thing that I've always been, that's been driving me to, for every practice, to keep getting better and better, because there's going to be a lot of people there, and I just want to go out there and get relaxed, so just have no pressure for that day, just play. So I'm really excited about that.
I know you talked about this a little, just the advantage you have with your dad, that NFL experience, but what are some anecdotal stories, or maybe one or two you can have of that advantage and things he taught you or showed you that someone else wouldn't go through?